Thank you for tuning in to Chomping at the Bit. This is episode 45. So with this episode, I'm excited for this one because I'm going to take my first look at the NBA draft. More specifically, we're going to take a look at the three biggest name prospects. Go ahead and go through strengths, weaknesses, potential, meaning, what they need to work on to probably get the most out of their career. And then comparison or best case scenario for each one. Let you know what kind of current players that you may be watching right now that these players could possibly turn into. So now, mind you, with these three, I did, look at some film on them, some highlight videos, all that kind of stuff, and kind of came up with my own little scouting report for each one. Now, you may not agree with everything I said, so, as I say, just drop a comment or something, let me know where I might be crazy, or if I've hit him on the head, let me know. And of course, wherever they do get drafted, I will give you my, prediction on where they should be drafted, kind of based off their skill set and what fits best with the teams at the top. Of course, that can all change depending on if any trades happen on draft night, of course, but I can't look into the future, so we'll just go ahead and get started. So first off, the NBA draft is on Wednesday night. It's crazy that it's already here. Seems like the crazy season just ended not too long ago. But, all signs are pointing to the draft being Wednesday night. Then free agency starts, I believe, like Saturday morning or something like that. All leading to next season, December 22nd. So everything's going to happen really quickly. So, this is just the first step in the offseason leading to the road of next season starting. So the top pick in the draft, the Minnesota Timberwolves. If you don't know, what they do is they, based on where you finish, so all the teams that didn't make the playoffs are put in the draft lottery, which is the first 14 picks. And they put lottery balls in and all that kind of stuff. They do a drawing. That's how they get the draft order. So the Timberwolves won, got the number one pick. The top three picks are Minnesota, Golden State, and Charlotte, I believe. So, yeah. So basically, the three players I'm going to talk about on this episode, if you're a fan of either of those teams, you're going to get one of these players most likely, unless, of course, like I said before, you do make a trade. And in that case, can't help you. But I guess just looking overall at prospects, it seems like this year's draft it's an interesting one because I don't know if there's any bona fide superstars in the draft, but I do think there are a good number of all-star caliber players. And ultimately, that's kind of, that's not a bad thing because there have been some drafts that have been really top heavy and then the talent falls off. There's also been a few drafts where it's been pretty mediocre and the top pick turns into nothing. So the draft is always a crapshoot. So even the three that I brought up that I'm bringing up in this episode may not necessarily be the first three picks. Some team could throw a curveball and, draft some guy that I might think go a little lower, or the experts and all that. So, but these are the top three I do believe are the top three picks in the draft. Like I said, break them down, strengths, weaknesses, give you comparable, kind of like their best case scenario. And with that, I'm going to take a look at LaMelo Ball, Anthony Edwards, and James Wiseman. As I said, arguably, it's the top three prospects coming into the draft. So I'll go ahead and get started with LaMelo Ball. We all know, just by me saying Ball, You know about LeVar Ball, the dad. When Lonzo was coming in, he was all over your TV. He was in your face. Remember, he told you that Lonzo's going to be Steph Curry. That hasn't happened. But, you know, he was like a wrestling manager, you know, hyping up his performer. So, I mean, he did what he did. He got Magic Johnson to take Lonzo Ball high. Even though he did say back then that he thought, I believe he said that he thought LaMelo was the more talented Ball brother. And based off of what I've seen, he was probably right. Lonzo's been in the league a few years. Lonzo still has his deficiencies. He does have a few strengths, but you know, he definitely still has areas of his game to work on. The middle brother, well, yeah, LiAngelo, he's in the G League somewhere. So, yeah, now we're on to LaMelo, the third and final one. And I do agree. I think he is the most talented. At least he has the potential to be the most talented. I should have said Lonzo, since he's been in the league a few years. He's more talented right now. But I think LaMelo has the chance to pass him. So LaMelo comes in 6'8", which I was surprised he was 6'8", because I remember when the whole Ball saga started, LaMelo was like a little puny kid, but he's had a growth spurt these past few years, and now he's up to 6'8". He's a guard, so he can play point or shooting guard. At least that's what he did down in Australia and Lithuania. So his last stop was with the Illawarra Hawks of the Australian Basketball League. So here's kind of my thing on this. I do think one aspect that LeVar probably did LaMelo a disservice. I feel like he probably would have benefited more playing college basketball, but I understood, you know, he didn't want to get into that whole, you know, I don't know what to call it, but the NCAA and its crazy rules and how they, you know, benefit off of their athletes and all that. I get it. So if you didn't want to put him in college, I feel like if you didn't put him in a top international league, that may hold back his growth. So if he didn't play college basketball, when I first heard he was going to, you know, try to get him in internationally, I thought, okay, are you going to get him in, you know, French league, the Russian league, Spanish, the Euro league? No, he went to Lithuania. That's not a top league. And as we saw when he was there, he was playing against, you know, like guys coming off a 9-to-5 job. Gyms barely had electricity, some of them. And while he was there, you know, he didn't really get any type of coaching, no skills training, nothing like that. So that was a waste. He went to Australia, which is probably number 9 or number 10 in the world. Which is better than Lithuania, of course. But even down there, you know, he played in 12 games down in Australia. He shot 37% from the floor. Not good. A terrible 25% from 3. Which that number, you know, starting to remind you of Lonzo with his struggles from 3. 72 from the free throw line. You want to see that higher for a guard that's kind of ball dominant. You know, he did average 17 points, 7.4 rebounds, 6.8 assists. So it shows you that he has some versatility. And then 1.7 steals, which, remember that number, because a little bit into the analysis, you'll probably see where I'm going with that one. So just watching some of his games, his strengths kind of match Lonzo's, where it's court vision. You know, both of them are pretty good passers, so passing ability. LaMelo has, you know, he has decent handle, and down in Australia, you could see when he did try to go to the hoop, he could usually get around his defender. Although I do worry that in the NBA, he might get called for more carries or palming violations. Because watching down there, it seemed like there was a few times where he was getting dangerously close, and I never saw them call it down there. But I know in the NBA, every once in a while they'll shock you and will make that call, and especially with him coming in, rookie, he may get called a few times. He's actually really good once he gets into the lane. He has a good floater that he's confident in, so he'll score a lot in the paint with that. Kind of a weakness with that is he will shoot floaters from near the 3-point line, which is, a low percentage shot. So that leads into the first weakness, which is shot selection. And I don't know, this seems like a recurring trend with the Ball brothers. And I do think it's because, they played AAU teams where the dad was coaching or whatever. So, let them do whatever. Now, Lonzo did go to UCLA, and I think because of that, his shot selection did improve a little bit. But LaMelo didn't get that college, education, in terms of college coaching. So when he went to Lithuania, he was jacking the ball up. And then down in Australia, he had the tendency to shoot like fadeaway threes going to his left, or, like I said, a running floater from a step inside the 3-point line. Those are shots that you cannot consistently take in the NBA, because you will find yourself sitting on the bench. At least if you go to a team with a coach that's worth anything, you'll find yourself on the bench. Shot consistency. This is another thing that Lonzo had an issue with. Because they both shoot unorthodox ways, when they get lazy with their shot goes all over the place. If you watch LaMelo, kind of the reason why he shoots 25%, more than the threes that he does take, his shooting form is like all over the place. Sometimes he'll kick one leg out, he'll fade, he'll kind of just push it, almost like a Sean Marion type shot, and then every once in a while he'll like swish a three, and you'll be like, okay, so why can't you consistently have that form? So that's something he's got to work on to, I guess, figure out which version of his shooting form he's going to stick with and just go with that. Defensive effort is another weakness where you'll see when he's kind of off the ball, and I guess he doesn't figure that he's a part of the play. He'll kind of just stand around, and there was some times where I saw his defender would back cut him, and he'd have no idea what's going on, and then he'll turn around and get into the play late. Which also works on the offensive end, which is another weakness. When he's off the ball, sometimes he'll just stand around, and it's obvious that he's not a part of the play. So that's kind of the effort. And also with the defense, in terms of pick and roll, a lot of times he'll run into the screen and then he'll just stay there. He won't fight his way around it. So imagine he's playing guard, and they tell him to guard like Steph Curry. So Draymond Green would have come over, set a screen on him, and he just runs into the screen and doesn't move from there. Now you're giving Steph Curry a wide open three, and that's not going to fly. So he's got to get better at, maybe this might fall into with his growth spurt, so he clearly has room to add to his frame. Maybe he needs to do that to where he runs into the screen and then he can fight his way around it and, get over the top, run 3-pointers off the 3-point line. Because being 6'8", he's going to have an advantage against certain guards where, he doesn't have to be completely on them in order to shut them down. All he has to do is be in the area, and he should be able to affect some 3-point shots. So there's the strengths, weaknesses. So potential, more or less, what he needs in order to be the biggest success that I feel he can be. So one is he needs a coach who's going to challenge him, and by that, hold him accountable for him being lazy off the ball at times or not paying attention to his man on defense. 2, I feel like he's going to flourish with a team that likes to get out in transition, because that's where you get to see his court vision and passing ability really take over. He does have a little flair to his game when he's running the fast break. You'll see a lot of no look passes or one hand look away, spin the pass a little bit to catch the cutter, pass it around the defender. So up tempo works for him. He does have some stuff to work on in terms of half court. Because when you're in the half court, you don't want him taking some of the threes that he does where he'll kind of dribble down without moving the ball, take one of those random fadeaway threes that bricks, and then, yeah. You could probably get away with that a little bit in Australia. NBA, those are possessions you can't waste. So then last one was what I said about his frame. He's 6'8", 180. You can put a little bit more muscle onto him. It should help because, like I said, 6'8", he can offensively post up some smaller guards. And by adding to the frame, he should be able to, back him down, get easy shots that way. And for, like I said, defensively, when running through a screen, being able to get off of the screen easier. So the NBA comp to me, hybrid of his brother Lonzo, Jamal Crawford. So Jamal Crawford for the ability, to use his handles to get to the hoop. LaMelo can do that, and I can see him getting to Jamal Crawford type level. Lonzo, because I think with him being 6'8", and he has some length to him, Lonzo's biggest strength is his on-ball defending. I think LaMelo really wants to, and he has a coach, like I said, who gets on him about it. He could be pretty good on-ball guard defender. So I think out of the top 3 teams, his best fit would be with Golden State at number 2. Because, going into Golden State, they have their backcourt with Steph and Clay. So that means LaMelo would be, a guard coming off the bench, which I think would work perfectly for him. And even with that, he'll probably, because I think Steve Kerr, who is a big name, successful coach, is the type that would get on him for defensive lapses. But I think even if he comes in off the bench, they're not going to completely leave him out there for him to, go back to old habits and just throw up junk shots. I think they'll leave him out there with Curry or Clay. And then that way, it's not all on him to create for the second unit. So I think that's his best spot. The worst spot for him is Minnesota. I don't think he needs to go number 1 because I just don't see the fit between he and D'Angelo Russell working, because D'Angelo Russell is a guard kind of like LaMelo, where they are the most effective with the ball in their hand, and Russell is more established in the league, so I feel like there could be some friction there. So I think Golden State's the perfect spot for him. So now, you see how that works. We'll move on to the second prospect, Anthony Edwards, 6'5". He's a shooting guard. He's out of UGA, University of Georgia. He's a one and done, so freshman. He's 225. Now, once again, being in the Atlanta area, I did see a few SEC games, and Anthony Edwards was the type of guy where you would watch him and he would frustrate you because you knew there was more he could probably do on the court. But there was a lot of games where he shot poor from the field, scored like single digits, and then you would see another game he'd score like 20 or something, and you would just wonder why he'd go through like a 4 or 5 game stretch where he would struggle mightily and then be able to efficiently score a next game. So 32 games, freshman season, 40% from the field, that needs to go up. 29% from 3, that has to go up. 77% free throw line, I'm fine with that. That's okay. He averaged 19 a game, 5.2 rebounds, 2.8 assists, 1.3 steals per game. With Georgia, they went 16-16, missed the SEC tournament. And that was something that kind of discouraged me because if you are a college basketball fan, SEC isn't exactly a murderer's row of teams. SEC is usually really top heavy, and by that I mean basically Kentucky. Now, past few years, Auburn's been a big deal in the SEC, but then usually after that, a lot of the teams are kind of the same. So after hearing so much about Anthony Edwards, I thought he was going to come in, get Georgia maybe like 3rd, 4th in the conference. They went 5-13, were one of the bottom teams in the SEC, and it just didn't seem to match. But he did his 1 year. He's coming out, and from watching him, the strengths are all obvious. He's crazy athletic. He gets on the open floor. He's got good enough handles to get around defenders, get to the hoop, and with that athleticism, he's a great finisher at the rim. He will, he's a good, quick leaper. And when he gets near the rim, he's looking to dunk on people, which I like. Love that. And with that finishing ability, with the 225, 6'5" frame, strong. And when he's out on the court, you can tell with, some teams they played, he was like, man amongst boys in terms of the guys on the court guarding him. And for that Georgia team, he was kind of like their emotional leader. He was the guy who, dunk on somebody, crowd gets going, he gets amped up, the rest of the team gets amped up. So he was kind of like the heartbeat for the Georgia team, which I do think is a strength moving forward because, with that, you would think he would bring forth kind of like that tough, gritty mentality, get in amongst the trees, help rebound, stuff like that. Which with the 5.2 rebounds, being 6'5", I think that's a good number to be around. But with the strengths, there are some weaknesses. And he's another guy where shot selection is a big weakness for him. Once again, 29% from 3. But if you see him shoot, he's not like LaMelo. He actually has a pure shooting stroke. It's just that he will put up a lot of bad shots, which hurt his field goal percentage. So the potential is definitely there with him. If he can get into a system that forces him to be more disciplined offensively, then he should be able to shoot better than that. He's another guy. Defensive effort is in question. I mean, there was just some defensive plays where he would literally be on the ball. The guy would make like 1-2 moves, and he would just stand there and let him go by. That is something he definitely can't do in the NBA, because there is no quicker way to find yourself sitting on a bench than to show like you have zero interest in playing defense. And there were times where he did that. I saw a couple of plays that were just shocking. He would be at the top of the key guarding the guard. He might switch out to the point guard, and the point guard would literally go like between his legs, quick little crossover, and Anthony Edwards just literally just stood up and watched them go by. Didn't fight to get back into the play. Nothing. And as athletic as he is, that shouldn't be happening to him. Another weakness, kind of a big one, assertiveness. And this is more because it seemed like when he wanted to go to the hoop, he could get to the hoop at will. But a lot of times he just settles in taking mid-range shots or a semi-contested three. And I think for him, the biggest key is going to be, making his name as a slashing, off the ball type guy, get easy buckets that way, and then his game can kind of open up from there. But just to get comfortable, be a slashing type. So potential needs to work on shot selection, because like I said, he has a good shooting form. And in terms of like spot up threes, he shoots them pretty well because of that form. But, he can definitely raise his percentage by not forcing up unnecessary outside shots when he can get to the hoop easier. Needs to be better on defense. Just pay more attention. 6'5", 225. He should be one of those guards where if he kind of gets away with it, use his body and should be able to switch even to play some three. Some guys on the wing. 6'5", you're kind of on the border of your two guards and your small forwards, depending on what team you're playing. So he should be able to guard out on the wing. And like I said, with his athleticism and strength, that shouldn't be something where, big men have to shade over to help defend because you're afraid. Like a Damian Lillard or something will just walk around him. And then that causes the rest of the defense to be off. So he has to work on that. Like I said, don't settle for bad outside shots. You have the ability to get to the rim. Just go ahead and do it. So for me, I think a lot of analysts say they see Bradley Beal in him. I see that a little bit, but when I was watching him, the guy I see in his game is Victor Oladipo. Even I feel like his shooting form looks a lot like Oladipo, and Oladipo's a guy who can get to the rim, finish, will dunk on guys. So he's athletic around the rim, and Oladipo is a pretty good mid-range shooter. He's worked on outside shooting and he's become decent at that. So with that hybrid match, I feel like he's more leaning to Oladipo, but best case scenario, he'll flip it and lean more towards Bradley Beal of that hybrid. So I think the best spot for him, I feel like he actually works in Minnesota. He's the type of guy who could work with a D'Angelo Russell on the court. Because when he was at Georgia, he didn't need to have the ball in his hand all the time. Because I could see, Karl Anthony Towns getting a rebound, kicking it to Russell, and then Russell and Edwards running the break. Russell throwing a lob to Anthony Edwards or getting it out to him on the wing, letting him take it to the hoop before the defense gets set. And I think the two of them as a backcourt could really work together that way. So I think Edwards works in Minnesota. He kind of fits for either Minnesota. Yeah, he would fit in Golden State's system as well. Anthony Edwards could actually probably fit with either the three teams, Golden State, Minnesota, or Charlotte. So like I said, LaMelo doesn't work with Minnesota. And LaMelo does fit what Charlotte needs. I do Yeah, I think LaMelo would fit in Charlotte. So Edwards could fit 1, 2, or 3. Last prospect I'm going to take a look at, James Wiseman. Now, he's a guy, even though he's highly recruited coming out of high school, I wouldn't be upset if you didn't know too much about him. Well, he only played 3 games at Memphis. He's 7'1", freshman. He's 240 pounds. So he's a part of Penny Hardaway's like crazy freshman class, but he had some eligibility issues. He was he was going to go ahead and play during the appeal process, but then after 3 games, he kind of just shut it down and was going to go ahead and get ready for the draft. So in those 3 games, he shot 77% from the field, which for a big man, that's kind of par for the course. 70% from the free throw line. For a big man, I'll take that. He was a double-double guy, shade under 20 points a game, shade under 11 rebounds a game, and then 3 blocks a game. Now, not expecting him to give you 3 blocks a game in the NBA, but maybe 1.5, 2 blocks a game is now the question. So with those numbers, you could see why he was, highly recruited coming out of high school. But I do wish would have been able to see more of him at Memphis, because it, would have been beneficial to him. But, with the whole eligibility thing, I understand that. So watching some games on him. Strengths, he's a great rim protector. 3 blocks will tell you that. 7'1", he's got so reportedly he has a 9'5" standing reach, which is crazy. So, you can probably figure out, standing flat-footed on the floor, reaches his arms up, 9'5". The rim's 10 feet, so not too far from just standing and dunking. So with that, he is a really good rebounder, and he's athletic enough in the pick and roll game that he is an immediate lob target. And at 7'1", he runs the floor really well. So, he'll get a rebound, get it to the guard on the wing, and he'll take off down the middle of the floor. He's able to beat his man normally down the floor, so he gets a lot of easy baskets that way, either through lobs or a little bounce slip pass to him while he's around the free throw line. It's a dunk. So runs the floor well, great rebounder, protects the rim, and a lob target. Weakness with a lot of guys who are really good shot blockers, they have the tendency to commit bad fouls, because they'll bite on a lot of up fakes, which gets them out of position, and then smarter players force them to bump them while they're going up, and you get a cheap foul. So that's something he's gonna have to watch, because there's a lot of heady guards and wing players in the NBA. And yeah, it's great that he's a rim protector, but if he's in foul trouble, what good is it if he's sitting on the bench? So he's gonna have to be more mindful of that. Definitely there's the ability there for him to get stronger, because I did see a few times where smaller, stocky guys like a Draymond Green type build were able to root him out a little bit from under the hoop, but luckily with his reach, he can make up for that. But just imagine he could put a little bit onto his body, and then he just becomes an anchor in there, and he goes up for rebounds, and you're just helpless at that point. Like a lot of big men, pick and roll defense, he does struggle a little bit, because he is a big guy. So so sometimes if the guard's real shifty and quick, he'll look like he has lead feet and he can't move, and the guard just gets around him. And not every guard will he be able to use his length and shot blocking ability to get back in the play and get a block out of it. So he has to work on like agility and all that with his feet. So he does have, so potential wise, he does have a shooting touch kind of around free throw line and in. And I do wonder with that, could he extend it a little bit further out to the mid-range game? I would not be shocked if at some point in his NBA career, he is a threat from the 3-point line. You know, not like how Joel Embiid is, where he'll make one and then sit out there and shoot 10 of them. I'm not saying he's going to get to that point, but he's a guy that I could see, you know, trailing a fast break, kick it out to him. And just from his shooting form and stuff, it looks like I could see him at some point, kind of like a Jokic, where he can make 1 or 2 threes a game. I see that with him. And then, like I said, with the pick and roll defense, the NBA is a big pick and roll game. So he's got to get better with mobility, you know, staying low, cutting off guards, and, you know, hedging back to his man and just giving his guard a chance to get around the screen, get back to his man. So the comparison for him, I mean, you heard rim protection, lob target, automatically DeAndre Jordan pops to your mind. When you see Wiseman in his highlights, you see a lot of DeAndre Jordan, like with his lobs that he catches or an offensive glass where he'll grab a rebound, go up quick, dunk it. He looks like DeAndre Jordan. So the second half of the hybrid is Chris Bosh. Chris Bosh, a lefty like Wiseman. You will see Wiseman catch it high post and do a turnaround. If you weren't paying attention, he looks exactly like Chris Bosh shooting those mid-range shots. And you remember Chris Bosh coming out of Georgia Tech. He was a guy who shot a lot from the mid-range. And then once he got in the NBA, he slowly moved his range further out. And by the time he got by the time it was like the end of his tenure at the Raptors, he was shooting a lot of corner threes, which he then went on to shoot a little more once he got to Miami with LeBron and D Wade. I see Wiseman kind of being that same type. So, you know, he kind of has the DeAndre Jordan part down now, but I think Chris Bosh is a guy that he can develop into. So that's why I gave him that hybrid comparison. And there you are. Those are the top 3 picks. So if I was just to guess, I would say Edwards would probably go 1 to Minnesota. LaMelo 2 to Golden State. Although Wiseman, I didn't say this. So Wiseman works in Golden State because imagine setting a screen for Steph Curry. The amount of lobs he'll catch is ridiculous, and an athletic big is something that Golden State could definitely use. You know, they use Draymond Green a lot as a center. Draymond Green's like 6'6", so if they bring in a Wiseman, Draymond can kind of be your power forward. He will work better there, so Wiseman works there. Wiseman doesn't fit Minnesota, so he's not going to go number 1 because they have Karl Anthony Towns, and Wiseman and Towns aren't gonna fit on the court together. So Wiseman's either gonna go 2 or 3 because he can play in Charlotte as well. So I wouldn't be shocked to see Edwards 1, Wiseman 2, and then LaMelo go to Charlotte at number 3. But yeah, so with that, like I said, it's the first look at the draft, top 3 prospects. Hope you like what you heard. I'm definitely going to do this again. Take a look at probably 3 more prospects next time I do it. Definitely do it before Wednesday when the draft happens. It might be maybe Monday. I'll do part 2. And, take a look at some other guys. A couple of international guys who might not know who will go at the top of the draft, and some other guys, but I'll definitely let you know who they will be. Just off the top of my head, I'm thinking that was a Denny Avija, dude out of Israel. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Obi Toppin, I love his game. We'll definitely probably do his breakdown next episode, and maybe like a Cole Anthony. But anyway, till that episode, worry about it then. But looking ahead, of course, tomorrow, well, I guess by the time this episode comes out, it'll probably be Sunday morning. So I will do another episode Sunday before the 1 o'clock games get started in the NFL to get you set for all of that, as well as looking towards the Monday night game. I have the rest of my picks to make, so I'll definitely get those out to you guys tomorrow morning. And then after that, probably Monday. So Monday, I will probably do part 2 of the NBA draft. Might skip college football this week. A lot of games got canceled. I may throw it into an episode, kind of like a little footnote, but we're just going to keep going. A lot of stuff going on out there. So definitely a lot of material for each show. If you new, first time listening in, appreciate you. Hope you liked what you heard. Hope you come back for more episodes. There's also 44 other ones you can go ahead and check out before my newest episode uploads. Those who've been with me, appreciate you as well. Give the show a like. It's out on all major podcasting platforms. Definitely hit the subscribe button wherever you are listening. Would help the show out a lot. Follow the show's page on either Facebook, Chompin at the Bit, or on Twitter at Chompin Podcast. It's all one word. Capital C for Chompin, then capital P in podcast. And yeah, that way, whenever I do upload, you'll get notified somewhere that I have a new episode. Try to get build up the audience and all that. And also love for you to interact as well, whether it is on Twitter or the Facebook page. Give me topics that you want me to talk about, or give me your opinions on stuff I talked about. Just whatever. Make this as interactive as can be. So thanks again. Be safe out there, and I'll definitely catch you in the next episode. All right.